One meeting of the Round Turnpike and Bridge Authority, and all out of order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of November 16th. First of all, is there any public comment? I'm sorry. Next item is the minutes of the November 16th meeting.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, guys have it. Next, change order.
So we requested a estimate for a scope of work at the end of November 22 from our back office provider, Amovis, under our current contract to change our first notice invoice structure from a single note structure to consolidated. This was planned to come in the new back office, but it was something that we really urgently needed now. It's estimated that it will reduce our in-house, which we do everything in-house for our mail house, print operations by 50%. And it'll also cut down, we're having issues with supply chain, paper, envelopes, as well as reduce our postage by about 50%. They provided us an estimate not to exceed, $13,381. It is a one-time cost with they know exactly how much time it's going to take to develop the software, test the software, and then release it into production, which was going to be about 35 business days from the date of approval. This is something that Lori has already approved. We gave them the go-ahead in December, and we just wanted to bring it back to the board saying that we spent this money, the $13,000.
And Kate, before there's a vote to ratify, but could you just speak to the concept of a consolidated notice and what it means when the customer receives the alternative to consolidated notices?
Sure, we do it currently for our second and third invoice structures. That it's basically a grouping of the same license plate and multiple transactions being sent out on one invoice. So right now, and this was under our existing structure before we transitioned to all electronic tolling in our open road tolling environment, we wanted those people to get notified right away that they had an invoice. So right now, our first notice, every time they go through, they get a single and separate invoice per transaction. This will group them as long as they're in the system at the time of billing on one invoice for the same license plate and state.
Kitty, the concept sounds fine. Normally when we see these, we would actually see a not to exceed written on the financial effect. Is that the actual application here? Is it not to exceed?
It's not, we just asked them for a quote. We asked them for the quote, and if it's more work than they anticipated, this is all we're going to be paying. It's a one-time cost. This is how we typically do it with our back office. We've requested only a handful of change orders in the past. The last time we did it was to incorporate when we opened the all open road tolling lanes. Prior to that, we didn't have the all electronic, taking pictures. But the last time we did it was to incorporate the violation processing system, and it was a one-time development cost, which became then a monthly maintenance cost, because that wasn't something that we started.
Yeah. The reason I'm bringing it up is because normally if we ask for a budget and then we pay for actually only what they do, like if they did, because this was like they estimated a day here and a day there and a half a day there, that was their estimate. So it's not a very precise estimate from what I can tell. And I just think of it as being, if you're just establishing a budget and if they do half the work, they get paid half the money. That just would normally be how it would be
And
done.
Peter, I would agree with you, and you and I had discussed this briefly,
Yeah.
but if you look at page 5 of their, they don't even use the word estimate. They say they've calculated, they've analyzed and calculated, and then it's very specific, right to the cents of what they're going to do.
But it's 3 days and it's 5 days. That's what this column represents,
Yep.
right?
Yes, it does.
So
That's right.
if you're saying it's 5 days, well, is it really 5 days or 4.5 days? That's my own point. It's trivial, but
Yeah.
No,
just
but following up on
Well
what
taken.
Peter just said, and if it were to go over, it wouldn't exceed that.
Right.
That's
the other side of it.
Right.
I totally understand that. Yeah,
right.
That's fine.
And just if it provides some comfort, so in January, just so far this month, we sent out almost 81,000 first notice invoices, which would effectively, with this new model, reduce it to about 40,000 that we're sending out.
Totally agree with the concept, just pointing it out.
Thanks, Kate. So we need a motion.
Move.
Motion by Darrell, seconded by Karen. Discussion, further discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Next is the fiscal year 2023 draft capital improvement plan. Eric?
Yep. So at last November meeting, I submitted the draft plan, the first draft, I should say, for all of you folks to review and comment on. We received comments. I have reviewed it with Peter Generos as well in more detail one day here in the office. We've gone back, had the consultant that prepared this implement all of the comments, make all the changes, and it's still in draft form, but this is the final draft for final, basically the final blessing and discussion here in front of you. And I just wanted to open it up for questions since it's in your packet. I'm not going to go through it obviously in detail here right now, but wanted to open this up for discussion now.
Peter?
Good. Yeah, Eric, first I compliment you on the what you've done so far. I think it's a really good product, and everything we talked about, you followed up on. The one thing, just for the board's consideration, that I'd like to bring up is on the Mount Hope Bridge, on item number 2, it talks about the wearing surface replacement, including the deck, concrete infill repairs. And that's a pretty big item, but it's also a few years out. And I think anybody that's been over the Jamestown Bridge recently, the Mount Hope Bridge recently knows that the rideability is terrible on the bridge. And I'm just suggesting that there is an option, a modest cost for chip seal. If you're all familiar with it, it's like asphalt with gravel, liquid asphalt with gravel packed in it. They can completely modify and straighten the rideability of the structure. Just something I wanted to keep open. When I had talked to Eric about it, if the grants come through and the money's available sometime soon, then it probably doesn't make sense to do something temporary. But if it's going to be down the road 5 years or so, I just think we ought to consider something that makes the rideability better, because it's a modest cost to do it. Just, I don't know if we need to put it in the
What would
plan.
that do to the structural?
There's no extra, it's not a big deal loading wise.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
It's negligible amount of dead load weight that it adds. It doesn't add any structural capacity to the
So,
bridge. It's just rideability only.
And when it,
Just makes a smoother ride. But if you've been over it recently, you can see that it's pretty
Yeah,
rough.
yeah.
Yeah.
okay. I just wanted to.
Yeah, I don't know that we need to do anything in the plan now, but I just bring it up for the board's consideration in the future. If it turns out that we don't get the grants and we can't do something in a timely fashion, that I think we can revisit that and
Yeah.
come up with that option.
I mean, I do want to point out, we're out there on a regular basis patching potholes, because the deck needs to be rehabilitated. It's bad.
Sure.
So if we did do some sort of a chip seal at some point, we would still be out there digging it up in places where we need to patch potholes. So, what it would do is it would bring the rideability back to a baseline, but you'll be back out there making it rougher again as you go out and do your fixes. So, we're hopeful that we score on one of these grants and then we can get the deck project included along with the dehumidification that we've already proceeded with. So,
What are the grants that you currently have out there?
right now we've got
Applications.
bridge improvement still is out there, and then we've got,
When
the
is
new
that?
raises coming up.
When is that scheduled to be decided upon? Do you know?
End of February, beginning of March is what we've been told by the governor's office. Their most recent meeting in Washington was that the decisions.
February,
End of
beginning of
February, beginning of
And
March.
what else is in that grant?
Dehumidification and then deck rehabilitation.
62.5 million for the
62
two
million.
projects.
And what category is that? Which-
That's the bridge investment
Bridge.
program.
Bridge investment program?
Yes.
Okay.
And that would address Peter's question.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah,
Right.
that would actually rehabilitate the deck for the long term.
Yeah,
That's-
yeah.
Have you gotten any calls on that yet from US DOT
No,
asking for additional information?
not yet.
Okay.
But we didn't for the infra grant that we got for 82.5
That came
million.
right out of the gate.
Yeah, right.
Okay. All right.
The governor's office has called us a couple, if you want to.
Yes.
And what's the plan if you don't get the grant?
Well, so we still got a program in here, for, you know, out of the later years, 25 through 27, you know, July 25 through July 27.
So 2 more years.
Yeah, so it's in here still, but, you know, if we can get the grant money, then we can potentially accelerate it.
Gotcha. Okay, good.
Further questions?
So the question has come up whether the capital improvement plan needs to be voted on. We had really intended to present it for discussion. Peter Gennaro's called me, and we had a brief discussion about this issue. There is no monetary
I thought it was just for
component.
information
It's
purposes.
really just but Peter, I want everyone to be comfortable. So, I know that Eric and Jeff have been working on coordinating the monetary expenditures for the future with the capital improvement plan. But we like to refer to this sort of like the Constitution as a living, breathing document that changes very frequently. It really doesn't stay the same for any period of time. So, if we voted on it, we'd be changing it in a month or the month after that. So,
Well, maybe if there's just a consensus that
yeah,
we concur with it.
yeah.
Do we vote on and approve the long-range capital plan? Is that part of a,
We vote on the budget, of course,
Yeah.
which
Well, that's the annual
which is
budget.
tied, yes, which
Yeah.
is tied to the capital. Do you vote on the 10-year? Is that what you're asking? Is that what
Yeah.
you're asking?
Yeah.
I believe in the past we do vote on
Yeah.
the 10-year plan.
I think, since this is a subcomponent of that,
Yeah.
by nature, we've already approved it, right?
I think that's true. So
And-
we could go
and
either
how
way
you
with that.
How you rearrange the year-to-year kind of funding within the 10-year plan is pretty much an agency issue, right?
Right.
And we see all the contracts before they.
Yeah.
before they-
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
That's the real
Yeah,
point.
that's fine.
We get to see the individual components of all of this metal.
Right.
So it's down for discussion, vote, or other action. So,
Yep.
however, I think we're all comfortable.
I'm comfortable just letting you do your business.
Okay. All right. Are you-
Good?
I mean, it looks good, it looks,
Everyone all set? Further questions?
very good.
Next item is the status report.
Sure, take that one as well. Pier 5W, the girder shoring and bearing removal and replacement. We've postponed the actual replacement of the bearings themselves just due to the temperature that we're in right now. We prefer not to replace them when it's cold because of the way that the rocker bearings are poised right now. We're afraid of releasing stresses that might be in the bearings due to the cold weather because that span is contracting right now. So what we've done is asked Cardi to button up all the shoring so that way it's secure, that nobody has to worry about anything, it's there. All the shoring will be right up to the bottom of the beam, that way if anything would have happened to the bearing itself, the bridge essentially goes nowhere because it's supported by other shoring right now temporarily. In the spring they'll come back in, they have the bearings here now, so in the spring they'll come out about the April-May time frame when temperatures are conducive, and they'll remobilize and do the actual bearing replacement. The Phase 2 final design for AET continues. We have progress meetings regularly. The consultants have come out on field visits, and we've had some pretty good constructive meetings on that. Miscellaneous steel repairs for Mount Hope and Secana. That's actually that's the contract that PSEC's been working on. Most recently on Mount Hope Bridge, I brought to the board's attention a while back that we had about $600,000 left in the contract that was unused, and we had an interim report that came in, an interim inspection report that raised some issues on Mount Hope. And it was all light work, and everybody concurred we could just continue with PSEC, have them do some of that work and address those issues. They've done so, they completed their work, and we're now $300,000 under budget still, so they only spent $300 doing that work. Part of that work included adding gutter scupper extensions to 44 scuppers on the main span of the bridge, which essentially they had been dumping water out and it comes down when it's windy, it just blows all over the structure. it's got salt mixed in, it's just not a good thing. So we actually went in with Schedule 80 PVC pipes. They, very rigid system with galvanized supports. They brought all of them down below the main structure, and now when the water dumps out, it just goes away from the bridge. So that was probably the best, one of the best improvements we made out there on that bridge recently. They did a great job on it. They really worked quick. They got it done, and it was impressive work. Heavy stuff, heavy materials. The ATMS Bridge Safety and Video Analytics, we're working on going through some issues with that system right now, working with Parsons, trying to make some improvements. They're looking at some cameras on Newport that weren't reporting properly, and trying to get that up and running. And then if that comes out, if that comes out fine, I'm going to move over to the Mount Hope and get that one up and running as well. And it involves a potential reprogramming of the AI that gets programmed into the cameras. Capital improvement plan update, obviously we've got the final plan in front of you now. Safety measures feasibility study, we gave a notice to proceed effective, I think it was January 2nd, it was the first work day after the new year, to begin the feasibility study on the Mount Hope and Jamestown Bridge. And load ratings and inspections, we completed the Secana River Bridge in Evans, and we're trying to finish out the Mount Hope Bridge and Newport Bridge ones, and then we've got Jamestown Bridge routine inspections to scope coming up. I just listed that just to show you that we're scoping that. And we also have the crack monitoring plan for Jamestown Verrazano Bridge we have a draft task order to review and look at implementing that. We're going to work with Federal Highway on this one, where we go out there and install some monitoring equipment and check it for several years, and see what happens with the cracks in the bridge. And the Federal Highways agreed that will be a good mitigation measure to allow us to not have to post the bridge for any reason. And that's it. If there are any questions?
Questions? Again, informational purposes. Okay, thank you, Eric. Next item is the financial reports. Jeff?
I'll be brief, as I provided the financial reconciliations in the package. But at a high level, total revenue was higher than budget by 17%, approximately $3 million. Total revenue was higher by $3.4 million, and that was offset by lower gas tax proceeds. Year-to-date operating expenses are lower than budget by 9%, or approximately $500,000. Personnel, utility, insurance, repairs and maintenance, bridge inspections, transponders are all lower than budget, whereas the contractual services and other supplies and expenses were higher than budget. And part of what Katie is implementing in passing will actually address the contractual services and the other supplies. So that will be factored into next year's budget. With respect to prior year, total revenue is higher by 16%, or approximately $2.9 million. Total revenue was higher by $3 million, and that was offset by the lower gas tax of approximately $100,000. All of our expenses, of course, are higher than prior year, with the exception of insurance. Insurance is lower, pretty much right on. It's lower by $6,000. So overall, our financial position is in great shape. We continue to look for opportunities for revenue enhancements, and we also, on a continuous basis, look for opportunities to also decrease our expenses. And that's it.
Questions? Nice job, Jerry. Go, your team. Thank you. Okay, Lori, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The traffic is, as usual, not much change. We've seen, I say every month that really all of the tourism traffic came back, all of the traffic that is headed to hospitality events and locations in the Quidnick Island area. Where we're lacking a little bit is in the commuter. I don't think the workplace will ever look the same for the most part across the country. So if we're missing a little bit of revenue, it's on the commuter side. That I tell you that every month, so nothing new. I would like to mention that on the topic of traffic, we do think that we are getting the benefit of the bargain with the Rhode Island State Police. As you know, we ventured into an agreement with the state police to help us patrol our bridges, since we don't have our own police force. And we were talking just before this meeting, a few people were saying they notice when the state police are here. It has an amazing influence. They've also, so they are monitoring, they're slowing down the traffic, they're pulling people over, they are helping us with the Mount Hope Bridge. They are also, and they have also been very helpful to us in enforcing, in pulling over the violators. I mean, we have people who come through the Pell Bridge gantry more times than you can even imagine, and don't pay, and so they have been helping us in pulling over the most egregious of the violators, the ones that have hundreds, if not more than hundreds, of violations, and giving them summonses to appear in the traffic tribunal. So it's been very helpful, and we monitor that closely. I do ask our manager of safety and security, Steve Cahill, to monitor so that our traffic technicians, traffic management technicians know where the state police are. We note that so that we can be certain that they're in the area, and that we're working hand in hand with them, and getting the benefit of our agreement with them.
Lori?
Yes.
How do they know who's a violator when they come through? Are they watching it, or are they have access to your database, or is it in?
We put both. We provide them with a license plate, make and model of the vehicle, as well as their transaction information. Most people have a general pattern of when they're coming over, so they will sit and wait for them
Gotcha.
in each direction. It does take a little bit to get them. I think they've caught and pulled over 15 to date since the last 5 months, I would say.
Right. These are people with hundreds of violations.
Mhm.
And
One had more than hundreds.
Yeah, our top violator finally was stopped. They've all been taken to traffic tribunal. They all have a DOB hold on them. This is kind of our last resort to get them to stop doing what they're doing.
They actually all show up at traffic tribunal? Okay, that's what they were summoned to traffic tribunal. They weren't actually taken or didn't show up. Okay, yeah.
Yes. So, and sometimes at that point they are driving with a suspended license.
Thanks.
So also on tolling operations, this is a very busy time here. We are implementing a new back office system. We are, and we have a new contract with the roadside integrator that actually captures the tolling data out in the lanes. We're in the process of implementing that. We're making strides in doing better with customers in terms of phone service. As I mentioned at other meetings, the transition to all electronic tolling has been a blessing. It's been a great thing. However, the increase in bill by mail transactions has burdened the phones, it's burdened the website, it's burdened the walk-in center, and the post office. We've always been their #1 customer, but now I think they come to us and say, "What else can we do for you?" Because of the volume of mail, which means we have to do a better job at getting more people to sign up for Easy Pass, which we are also trying to do. Part of this is also improving our phone system, and we're in the process of designing a new gantry. The gantry, if you look out the window and you see the lollipop sign, which is the very tall sign with that right now says what the speed limit is on the Newport Bridge of 40 miles per hour. The new gantry will be in that vicinity just before, correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, just before that sign, the new gantry will be there. We are, that's well along in the process of design. We have brought in some local architects to get some local, because we were concerned about what it's going to look like. We know how it's going to function. We know, we know the basic design of it, but we want it also to look good. So, so we brought in a couple of local architectural firms who, it was pretty exciting actually to meet with them. You could, they weren't sure what was being asked of them, but the more we talked about what you could see, as architects, you could see sort of their eyes light up, as they talked about, asking us questions about, would you like this, would you like that? In my mind, I said, I thought of the Rocky Point sign, and I said, it can't look like this. It can't be, so the question is, do we want something more understated? What exactly do we want that gantry? In the end, our goal is to make it complement this bridge, probably in an understated way, but to complement the design of the bridge. We don't want to do anything that takes away from the beauty of this bridge. So we're in the process of closing in on that. On the Easy Pass side of things, the Easy Pass system is in the process of going live with a new hub. All these years, we have all exchanged files among all the states that belong to the Easy Pass system. We will go live before Memorial Day in exchanging files with other states through a hub. So that should streamline things quite a bit. So that's exciting as well. There's an awful lot going on the tolling side of things to help our customers have a better experience here and to help our staff to better process all of the tolls. Federal funding, well, we've already discussed what's pending. We're hoping for good news at the end of February, beginning of March. We do know that the governor's office has been in touch with US DOT, has had direct meetings, I believe, with the Secretary of Transportation, and stressed the importance of the Mount Hope Bridge, rehabilitation for the Mount Hope Bridge. We're obviously hoping that we'll get not only the money for the dehumidification, but also for the redecking, because if you've driven over the Mount Hope Bridge, you know that it's definitely a need. So that's where we are on that, and other than that, our next board meeting is the 15th of February. So we'll be getting even closer to hearing if we're successful with the Mount Hope project.
Questions of the executive director?
On the safety barrier studies, is there additional money? Maybe just explain where we're at relative
Yes.
to the safety barriers.
So we have seen the governor's budget, and so far there's no additional funds. However, I do have a meeting scheduled with Senator Tahama and Representative Solomon, who sponsored the bills, and I expect that they'll be pursuing additional money so that the feasibility study for the safety barriers can include the Pell. So that's going to take place this week.
Further questions? Okay, hearing none. We'll move to the next item. Looks like we're going to go into executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 42-46-5A2. It's regarding truck toll. Do I have a motion? Motion, second discussion. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Great job, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.